Let's get these.
After cleaning out the bees, they went ahead and put the original piece of fiberglass that they had cut out of the hole in, and then used some Eternabond tape to give us a good weather-tight seal for our journey back to Michigan. After doing some work inside, I cut a piece of 1/4-inch plywood about 2 inches larger than the hole so that it would overlap on the inside by 1 inch. Then I cut out the center, but not completely. Yeah, it's where the tape is right now. I cleaned the outside as best I could, drilled some small holes through the skin and into the plywood, and attached this plywood temporarily with these hex head sheet metal screws. Then I marked top, bottom, left, and right after everything was attached, and went ahead and traced around the inside to get a good heavy mark for where I was going to use the West System 610 to attach this to the back side of the fiberglass. I don't have to worry about getting all of the goop off the outside, because after I cut the hole back out after the fiberglass is cured, I can go ahead and grind a little bevel, then put my fiberglass piece into the inside, glass it in using the same technique, and then do my filler on the outside to get ready for paint. Now I marked all the screw locations before I remove them. This is just for a quick reference for when I am setting the plate back in when I have the fiberglass on it, because I want to get a couple of screws in right away, and that way it will start to squish the fiberglass out from the back side. Then I'll attach all of these screws and then walk away from it for a day or so. The fiberglass will cure, I can remove the screws, and then I can start my filling and fairing. I'm using West Systems 610 thickened epoxy, and I could have used regular West Systems and some adhesive filler, but I decided this was much more convenient. So I'm running a heavy bead around the inside so that that will glue that to the inside. Then I will attach those screws, pull it up tight, and wait a couple of days for it to cure. Now, since I've got all the screws installed and I've got a fair amount of squeeze out, and because this piece of fiberglass is basically the size of the inside of this frame, I'm going to remove all the excess that's squeezed out so I'll have a good tight fit. Now I'm going to leave it alone and let it cure for a couple of days until I get a chance to get back and work on it. The only other thing I'm going to do is remove this tape so that I won't have that much stickiness on there, and then I will show you once the tape is removed how I only have it attached at the corners in the center. If you look carefully, you'll see that this is cut all the way through, most of the way around, but it's still attached at the corners. So I can leave this in place right now until the fiberglass cures, and then get in with a handsaw or a saber saw and cut out the rest of it. I did this on my radial saw by simply dropping the blade over the center of each line and running it back and forth and not taking it all the way to the corner. Why am I doing this? Well, because I really don't need it to be two thicknesses all the way around, and I want to make sure that the curvature of the existing fiberglass is not going to be impaired by following the right curvature in the center. There was nothing in this hole before except the fiberglass skin. Now I'm going to have that backing around about 1 inch around the perimeter of it, and then it'll be glassed into place, and I'll take out all these screws and start my filling and painting process. This is 3 days later, and the process now involves taking all the screws out and starting with the patch. I'm not going to take the center out just yet, but I will do that as soon as I get the fiberglass center that's being put back in cleaned up and take it to a place that can do paint matching, and then I'll go ahead and start on the final repair. Now I'm going to use a handsaw to cut out the center of that plywood. Now that I've removed the center piece of plywood and have my frame left, I'm going to go ahead and stuff as much insulation in that hole as I can to prevent anything like this from happening again. And then I'll put the fiberglass piece back in the center and let it rest for a couple of days. Now I'm ready to apply 610 to the edges of the frame here, and then using 4 or 5 screws or 6 screws, then hold it in place to squish everything out, let it cure for a couple of days, and continue on with the fairing and filling. Down below here I'm using some great stuff to fill that cavity completely so there's no path into that wall. Now I'm going to drill 6 very, very small pilot holes for some screws, and then I'll pull that off and put the 610 on the back. Now that the screws are installed and I've got some squeeze out, I'm just going to use a little corner of a shop towel and drag that around to fill the gap, and then walk away and let it cure. I wanted to assure I got adequate squeeze out and having this panel lay as flat as possible. So I went around and put more of these smaller sheet metal screws in. I'm going to have to grind this all down and fill it anyway, so a few more holes won't hurt anything.